Welcome to the People Experience Pulse podcast, your gateway to the new frontier of human experiences at work. On the PX Pulse, we're all about elevating experiences, fostering belonging, and building remarkable workplace cultures in a fast-evolving world.
Data shows that a breakdown in cross-cultural communication can lead to missed deadlines, reduced team morale, and even financial losses. So, how can you effectively navigate and improve cross-cultural communication within your organization? On today's episode, Vicki Flier Hudson and Jeff Bond discuss just that in part one of this two-part discussion on navigating cross-cultural communication. During today's conversation, they will break down a few of the most common myths and talk about the first of 4 key strategies for enhancing cross-cultural communication for organizational success. Stay tuned to hear where many people, maybe even you, get it wrong when it comes to interacting with people from different cultures and ways to make these communications more productive. Be sure to subscribe to the People Experience Pulse podcast to catch part 2 of this conversation.
Are you looking to make your workplace more human? Check out my friends at CoolLeaf. What I love about CoolLeaf is that it helps leaders create connection, engagement, and recognition. You can celebrate team wins, reward colleagues, and have fun with your coworkers. You can build a culture of appreciation and feedback that boosts morale, retention, and performance. CoolLeaf also simplifies measuring and improving the employee experience with pulse surveys, rewards, and integrations with your everyday tools. To learn more about CoolLeaf and how it can make your work more human, visit coolleaf.com/trycoolleaf. That's COOLEAF.com/trycoolleaf to book your free demo today and see how top workplaces use CoolLeaf to put their people first and thrive.
Welcome back, People Experience leaders, to the People Experience Pulse, where we focus on empowering senior leaders and experts in employee experience, particularly in large distributed organizations. Today's episode is Navigating Cross-Cultural Communication, and I am here with my co-host, Jeff, to talk about this important topic. What's the word, Jeff?
So excited to be here with one of my favorite communicators, Vicki Flier Hudson. Thanks, Vicki.
Thank you. So this episode is part of our Strategies for Success series, designed to share practical, actionable insights for fostering inclusive work cultures. So cross-cultural communication is a crucial piece of that puzzle. Would you not agree?
Absolutely. So today we're going to jump into the central question of how can I effectively navigate and improve cross-cultural communication within my organization to mitigate financial losses, boost team morale, drive organizational success in a globalized business environment. So there's a study that we looked at by The Economist. And, as a disclaimer, this was back in 2018. So imagine these numbers today with a world much more committed to remote and hybrid work and globally distributed team. But it said that 44% of executives believe that inadequate cross-cultural understanding has resulted in financial losses for their companies. It also states that unclear instructions from superiors, pointless meetings, and other stressors can snowball into larger issues with widespread impacts on the business. So just to give you a couple more stats here, respondents say communication barriers are leading to a delay or failure to complete projects, which is about 44%. Respondents. Low morale is 31%, or missed performance goals 25%, and even lost sales 18%. So there's some worthy numbers here to look at and to confront as a major issue. So this will just set the stage. Vicki's going to debunk some of the myths about cross-cultural communication. And then we're going to give you 4 ways to enhance cross-cultural communication to mitigate these pitfalls. So I'll kick it to you, Vicki.
Can you believe the 44%? I mean, that's just sad.
I actually can believe it. It is sad, but I can believe it.
Absolutely. And those numbers are going up. I remember reading similar studies in 2010, and the numbers have already increased from then to 2018. So imagine how they are now.
That's why I didn't do a 2024 report, because it would have really just depressed everybody as we got into this.
Exactly. The good news is we can do something to
Yes.
mitigate some of these challenges. So one of the things we can do is just be aware of the myths that are out there about working across cultures, because there's a lot of them, and they can be actually pretty damaging to a team's ability to work together. So one of the myths is that language fluency is the only barrier in global teams, particularly if you feel like you're all focused on the same project and it's something like engineering or finance that's pretty data driven. But the reality is very different. Yes, language is a challenge, but that is only one aspect. And in fact, in my experience, communication style is a far bigger barrier than language, even within the same country. So, the way people interpret the meaning of the word yes, for example, has caused a lot of damage in cross cultural teams that I've worked with. Another myth is that cross cultural communication is only relevant to teams that work across national borders. But again, the reality is, while global teams maybe face a little bit more of that in terms of cultural difference, even within a single culture, you have people from diverse backgrounds. I mean, I come from LA, which is very informal, and I live in Atlanta, where, especially in the rural parts of Georgia, it's a little bit more formal. So those challenges can happen even within the same state. Another myth I hear a lot is that cross cultural competency, like if you have a one time training, you're good, you're going to be cross culturally competent. And the reality is that it takes a continuous learning process. And just a little statistic on that, it takes anywhere from 30 to 50 hours of targeted work just to move the needle on one level of a 5 scale measurement of cross cultural competence. So it takes time. Another myth is one of my least favorite terms in the world, assimilation. So, some people believe that to have successful cross cultural communication means that everybody ends up conforming to the dominant culture's norms and values, but that is not actual inclusivity, and it's not effective either, because that involves actually in respecting and valuing diverse perspectives and seeing them as a way that you can solve problems. And the final myth that I'll point out is, I hear this one a lot. If you just focus on the work, it'll all work out. And there's some truth to that. I mean, there's a great author in episode 19 of the People Experience Pulse, Melissa Hahn. She was one of our guests, and she said, it's not wrong to see work as being about the task. She and her co author found that most people across cultures feel that way, but it's more about how you view the task. So, do you build relationships to facilitate the task, or do you use the task to build relationships? So, the myth of just focus on the work and it'll all work out is not true. When there's miscommunication, it's going to disrupt the flow of work. Wouldn't you say, Jeff? I mean, that's been our experience with some of our clients, right?
It really has been. And it's super helpful to confront some of these myths up front, because I would be lying if I said I didn't believe in each and every one of these at some point in my career. And it's been such a joy working with you, having well over 20 years of experience training cross cultural communication to globalized businesses. And you see the world in such a unique way, which is why I really want to get into the ways to enhance cross cultural communication for organizational success by focusing on some of the things that you've taught me. And that's really helped me develop in my career, and why I feel so blessed to do the work that we do for our clients in training them to be better communicators across cultures. So the first one is understanding core differences. Can we unpack that a little bit, Vicki?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for the kind words. And it's funny because of all of my experience, I still sometimes catch myself believing those myths. So we are never done with this work, are we?
No.
So, understanding core differences, the way that I see that is like think about the difference between the operating system of a Mac and a PC, or say Google versus Microsoft systems. They each have their strengths and limitations, but the problem is when you try to use a program with one that's not compatible, it's because you're not even aware that the OS underneath is different. And that's kind of the way that I see operating across cultures. The systems of culture can be hidden even from the participants themselves. So, we know less about our own culture sometimes than others. And then when we encounter other cultures, we see that conflict or that there's some sort of clash, but that's the time when we discover we might have different operating systems. So we need to acknowledge that and kind of assume that the possibility that we have different OSs is pretty high, right?
Absolutely. And for all you who are wondering, Vicki and I do a lot of business together. Our companies do. And she's a Microsoft shop. I'm a Google shop. We have figured it out. So it can be done. And we've done a lot of business together. So I love that analogy. All right. So the second tool that we wanted to go through today, or way to enhance cross-cultural communication, is to adapt communication styles. So can we get into that a little bit, Vicki?
That concludes part 1 of this 2-part episode on navigating cross-cultural communication. Be sure to subscribe to the People Experience Pulse podcast and stay tuned to catch part 2 of this conversation.
Thank you for joining us for another insightful episode of the People Experience Pulse. The change you create, no matter how small, could be the spark that ignites an exceptional people experience in your organization and beyond. If you found value in today's conversation, we'd greatly appreciate it if you took a moment to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen. Your feedback helps us deliver high-value content and reach more listeners like you. You can find other inspiring episodes and additional resources at our website, thepxpulse.com. Join our community at thepxpulse.com. Thank you again for joining us on the People Experience Pulse. Until next time, remember, the heartbeat of any organization is its people. Let's make every pulse count.